In this video, I'm building the most amazing aviary in Jurassic World Evolution 2, inspired by this experimental aviary I built live on stream last weekend. Welcome back to Jurassic Park Japan, the new weekly building series on the channel and my first series with mods. And speaking of mods, I have two new ones to add to the list. This path mod that creates a much nicer and more realistic texture, and today's star of the show, the genuine Opteryx. Let's build it the kind of aviary that I would love to see in Jurassic World Evolution 3. So we have the lovely traditional pagoda, we have the destroyed town for Gojira, our melanistic Tarbosaurus, and in today's video we're going to be working on this cliffside right now, and we're going to be building an aviary there, you know, which is obviously inspired by the aviary in Jurassic Park 3. It was also built on a cliff. And yeah, I'm excited about this one. Oh, another mod I need to show you is the Bat Cave. This is just a really handy piece to, yeah, to hide the monorail going into the mountain over here as well. Because rock arches take a long time to build, let me tell you that. Okay, so I actually shrunk it down, but I need to not do that. I'm first just gonna place the aviary, and then we're gonna hollow it out, basically. We're gonna hollow out the earth underneath it. That's another Monsterverse reference, I guess. Aviary, this bad boy right here. So I obviously, as always, I have a bit of a sketch to sort of figure out how I want it. But as I always say, you gotta remain flexible as well. Let me test this out. It's honest, it's bigger than I would like, but this is too small. What I'm gonna do, so right now, I'm not using the open aviaries mod, so I can't do this, but thankfully I've discovered that I can do that. I can use the water tool to mess with the terrain under the aviaries. So there's gonna be an area right here. That's gonna be a plateau, and we're gonna do it like that. And then this is a plateau, and then the very bottom section is gonna be like that. And we're gonna cut it right across. Alright, that's a lot of empty space that I'm gonna be filling in, but that is just about the vision. I have two interesting ideas. At least, I think they're interesting. Interesting is, you know, could be interpreted negatively if you so desire. But you might be thinking, okay, that's a big hacking cliff. What are your guests gonna do with that? I have a plan. Now, it is gonna require some imagination, so bear with me in that regard. So the idea I had are elevators. And obviously we don't have elevators in the game. We don't have a mod for elevators either. But I was thinking, what if we whip out these bad boys? And then there, we clip it into itself. Make sure that we're going straight, obviously. We're gonna do another elevator. You know the kind of fancy elevators with like the glass sides. So now we're gonna use the toolbox, the almighty toolbox. And we're gonna angle them upright. Okay, well that's not quite upright, is it? See? You see what I mean? You see what I mean? And then you can pretend again, and this is where the imagination comes in. Even when Evo uses mods, she's still gonna use her favorite catchphrase, use your imagination. I'm gonna lower it so like this concrete base is right about at the level of the top plateau, because that's how people get into the elevator. You know, the elevator door would be right here, and this is the shaft, and the elevator goes up and down, up and down. There, so that's elevator number 1. Okay, I want to have 3 elevators, just to make sure that we, you know, service all of the foot traffic properly, and also it's quite a big cliff, honestly, we might as well. What distance? I quite like the idea of having them quite close together. So I'm gonna hit M, and then get them at about the same height. So there, we have these elevators, but of course, I'm gonna be building an elevator inside the aviary as well. This is not where my elevators are. I love that I'm already thinking of the log as my elevator. Look, the mind is a powerful tool, I tell you. Oh god, I did it the wrong way. My mind is not particularly powerful. But she does her best, okay? She does her best. And then, yeah, guests sort of enter the aviary and go down in here. I think that's okay. We have some overlap here. Like we have some distance to bridge, but that's gonna be fine. Oh, I quite like that. I quite like that. Might be a controversial idea, because you know not everyone likes, you know, stretching what is reality, but I do. And then for the entrance buildings of the elevator, we just use these buildings. Yeah, we're just gonna put these into position, and I just gotta make sure that it's actually on the correct level. There, see? You see what I mean? You see what I mean? And we do the same thing at the bottom. Why do I keep doing that? I think it's because I just built, like, basically a mountain out of those Batcave pieces, so my muscle memory is really like, I want to click on that button. Now, obviously, our guests are not going to be exiting into the wide open aviary to get attacked by our flying reptiles, right? We're gonna be building like a custom structure for them to get to the edge of the aviary and exit safely. I've learned a lot of interesting things just through experimenting during the live streams, honestly. So yeah, somehow interesting things, interesting builds do happen during the live streams. But yeah, there you go. That's sort of what I have planned. So this is gonna be elevators. I want to work staircases into this corner, and then on this side, I've already thought this out. What we're going to be doing, where is that going to be? Over here. We're going to be using this building just as escalators, because obviously there's an escalator in that thing, right? So what I'm going to be doing when the time comes is I'm gonna be clipping this thing in here, either adjust the height of this plateau or adjust the height of that plateau to make it match perfectly, and then we're gonna clip a building into the front. I keep clicking on the decorations here, but let's say, well, let's not use a toilet. Here, let's use this thing just for the sake of showing you guys what my plans are. She has a plan. Here, but you clip this thing into it, so that's the access building, and then guests go into this thing, they go down the escalator, and they exit on the next plateau. Because I feel like escalators are a lot more efficient at moving people up and down than an elevator. Yeah, but I really like the elevator idea, so that's why I'm putting 3 here to handle as much traffic as possible. And then on this side, we're gonna do a couple of escalators. So you're with me? I think you're with me. I think we're good. Okay, let's continue then. I have a lot of work to do. Oh, I think one of the Christmas presents for my mom or my dad was just delivered. It was just shoved through the mail slot. It's gonna take some finagling to fit a staircase in here, but what I mean with staircase is we have these pieces. It's gonna take, looks like it's gonna take 3 to cover that height. So yeah, that's gonna be a challenge to figure that out, but that's the plan. The problem is I've already tested this quickly. This amount of height difference is fine. The pterosaurs can manage that just fine. This height difference between like the actual aviary and the ground is causing some glitches. If we put water or food down here and the pterosaurs come to eat or drink, they actually, as soon as they land, they glitch up and they sit in mid-air right here. So we're gonna have to put their food and water on like one of these plateaus. I already have an idea for the viewing there. But maybe we can use this thing as like some over the edge cliff viewing. That might be pretty cool, actually. That's pretty cool. I probably would have preferred to have like a view at the very top of the cliff. But again, we want to give our pterosaur some actual space to function properly. And then here, what I'm gonna do is use... Bam. Where are they? These glass pieces to look into the aviary. Because obviously a lot of it is going to be built using the mesh pieces. But they don't... Hold on, I will show you. I will show you. Again, the aviary we built during the live stream was great practice. So if I drop us in as a guest, you'll see the difference. Like, this isn't providing the best view. But this is. That's gonna be so cool. There's one more thing, and oh, I didn't really leave myself the right amount of space to do that. I want to take this river right here into the aviary and do another waterfall because I love waterfalls. Why wouldn't I? They are amazing. So maybe I need to move him over so we can get a little bit more room here to sneak that waterfall into. That's fine. I'm very much leaning into the fact that, you know, it's a park. It's all fake. You know, even waterfalls are just like man-made contraptions to wow the public. Spared no expense, you might even say. You might go as far as saying that. Speed Build Evo is going to take over from here because there is way too much to do to fit into a real-time building episode. Because the aviaries weren't designed by Frontier for upskirt shots, so to speak, the concrete base of the aviary doesn't have a texture on the underside, so when you look up, you look right through it. Which is why I'm lining the aviary with these rocks, so we're looking at something solid from the bottom. The biggest, most time-consuming part of building this aviary was extending the structure using these mesh pieces. We have a lot of height to fill in with mesh pieces put in place one by one. I definitely second-guessed this whole project at certain points, especially when I started to see some massive frame rate drops. But I persevered, and I think by the end you'll agree that it was worth it. Much later, I did realize there was a slightly more efficient way to building these mesh columns, which is to place all mesh pieces in the exact same spot and then move them up with the toolbox. This cuts out the step of having to perfectly align them. To make the process a little more varied and interesting for myself, I didn't do the full perimeter at once. I took a break to do some other work, like placing rocks on the cliff. The terrain paints just don't cut it to make it look good. I did at first try to place the rocks more purposefully and angle them one by one to have a more smooth cliff face, but it would have taken 10 times as long and might have looked unnatural anyway with repeating patterns. So this was the approach I went with, and I'm happy with how it turned out once I added foliage to the cliff. To add foliage, what I do is I place a handful of mostly the temperate trees, and then using Kai's toolbox, I clip them into the cliff, so it looks like foliage is growing on the rocks. I also use the willow trees, which are one of the mods I'm using, as these look kind of like mossy jungle vines hanging down. And finally, I also put the banana plants from the tropical foliage set into the cliff, angling them first so they sit on the rocks more nicely. The guests that use the elevator inside the aviary obviously need to be able to safely exit the aviary, so I built a walkway for them using the same mesh pieces that I used for the outer wall. This walkway was another thing I played around with during the livestream build for our Cretaceous Christmas park, and a fun discovery is that the pterosaurs will come sit on the top of the walkway. For the exit of the walkway, I really liked this gate. The only problem is that it says aquatic park on one side because that's the mod it's for. So I had to build a quick rock arch on the inside to hide that sign. If you've been enjoying this build, do please give it a like, it helps me out so much. And if you want to make sure you don't miss out on future episodes of Jurassic Park Japan or the weekly live streams, hit the subscribe and become part of the square, like over 260,000 people already. Absolutely incredible, and I can't wait for all of us to go wild for Jurassic World Evolution 3. Moving on, after finishing the front facade with the mesh pieces, the aviary needed something more beefy structurally, so I built pillars out of the white shipping containers to support the weight of the aviary. Visually, it really needed this for the realism schmealism. Now, the mesh pieces are great, but from the guest perspective, it's not the prettiest way to look into a habitat, or aviary in this case. So one section I replaced with the glass wall piece, which you will see at the end of the video gives a much nicer view into the aviary. It was just a bit of a struggle finding pieces to fill in the gaps between the glass and the mesh. After doing that, I added some horizontal cross beams to my pillars, again just to beef out the facade a bit, stabilize the pillars, and I think it just looks a lot better. On the other side of the aviary, on the second plateau, I built the perimeter of the aviary a bit differently by alternating between columns of mesh and the support pillars built out of shipping containers. I think it makes the aviary look a lot more interesting than having the same kind of facade all the way around. And in the end, it's probably my favorite part of the aviary. But I think for the front, like the super tall front, all of the vertical lines would have been too much, too obtrusive. I think it works better for this side with the shorter height. While past me does that, I just want to remind you that all mods I'm using are linked in the Google Doc in the description box, and I want to say a quick thank you to Rob Earth and Fletcher from Triclaw Gaming for recommending the new mods that I'm using today. The new path texture, the bat cave, and the genuine optrix. My apologies for probably butchering that pronunciation. One of the reasons this side of the aviary is my favorite is because of this right here. I'm using the new bat cave to create a really cool viewpoint for our guests by combining it with the glass wall piece. So guests walk into the cave to get a look inside the aviary, and I'll be placing the feeder right in front of the window. I'm just building out the rock wall so the cave is situated more naturally in the landscape, and I'm adding to this later, which will just make it look so good. You'll see. But first I also added rocks on top of the viewing gallery that is located on this plateau to fill in the area. And also on this side, I replaced a bit of the mesh with glass pieces so our guests can have a better view into the aviary, and I really liked how I framed this one with the Jurassic Park gate. Up on the cliff, I created a plaza using the same line motif that I've been using elsewhere so far, which is inspired by Japanese dry gardens. You know, those Zen gardens where they rake patterns into the sand. I'm breaking up the massive plaza with a fountain for now, but honestly, a lot more work needs to be done on these guest areas. I've made a start with adding detail, but I was running out of time and running out of steam, to be honest, and I didn't want to just throw stuff at the build for the sake of the episode, so I'm leaving some parts unfinished until I have both the time and the inspiration to make them the best they can possibly be. Here, I'm turning this cave into a really private, secluded area, and I will show you in a mini tour at the very end of the video just how good this looks. It's really looking like something you'd see in a zoo, with the narrow path hidden behind rocks and foliage. I am in love with this area. For the statue, I use Sierradactylus because I think it's just about the closest statue we have. Just don't look at it too closely. The final part of the build is the interior of the aviary, and then she's ready for her showcase. If you've made it this far and you didn't just skip right to the end, thank you very much. I appreciate you coming along with me on this build, and I invite you to give suggestions for what you want to see in future episodes. Keep in mind that Jurassic Park Japan will only have Asian species, either from the vanilla game or, like today, a high quality mod. Now let's have a look at the end results. This is the completed aviary for the genuine optrix. I am really happy with how this turned out, and I truly hope that Jurassic World Evolution 3 is going to give all of us, everyone, whether you're on PC or on console, the tools that allow us to build something that comes close to this. Again, without the need for mods. But it's incredible that, for now, talented modders have made this possible. And that is what I meant at the very start when I said this is the best aviary. I'm not blowing my own horn, it's not the best because I built it, it's the mod makers that enable us to make awesome things like this, which is just undeniably leagues better than anything you can do with the aviaries in the vanilla game. The sky is the limit. So our guests can cross the bridge and look into this gallery right here, which shows the top plateau. We have Spinosaurus skeleton in the water that they could theoretically sit on. Of course, our guests can hop into the elevators, either inside the aviary or outside the aviary. and then they come down to this level, and I'm gonna drop us down as well. I think they look quite convincing as elevator shafts. So we just walk around over here. I've added this building. I'm not quite sure what else to do with this area. That's gonna be a future Evo problem. But I just want to show you the aviary from the ground perspective, because I think it looks pretty epic. So first and foremost, this is the access to the elevator that is inside the aviary, and you can yeah, look into the aviary like this. Now the mesh pieces are amazing, but clearly not the best to look through, right? So that's why I also use the glass pieces. So guests exit through here. They have the building right ahead of them. But if they come to the side, they get a much better view through the glass. Look at that, the waterfall just comes roaring down. You see the genuine optrix flying around up there. So that's the lowest level, but there's also a middle level right here. And as I said, I'm going to be adding staircases here, right? So that's going to take me some time to figure out. But guests would come down here, and that's where I'm gonna drop us into the mist. I'm really happy I built on this map, because this mist is really adding a lot of atmosphere. So they come over here. I love this path texture, and then this feels like a proper zoo, like this narrow path coming in here. Little seating area. And oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, there you go. There you go. That's exactly what I wanted. So you can come over here and you can watch them eat. Oh my god, they're all coming over right now. This looks so good. That is awesome. Yeah, I really like this this cave thing. All of the mods, again, listed in the Google Doc down below. Then our guests exit over here. And here we have this part of the structure, which I mixed up, keeping it a little bit more varied, and I think that looks really nice. And then framed by the classic Jurassic Park gate is another glass piece, so guests can look in. There's a bit of glare on this glass, but it's still a really cool perspective. If you enjoyed this build, please do subscribe for future episodes of Jurassic Park Japan. And for now, thank you so much for watching, liking, subscribing, and until next time, enjoy the game.